The first thing I noticed was the smell. Sharp, metallic, and faintly sweet, like burnt sugar mixed with ozone. It filled my lungs as I struggled to open my eyes, which felt heavy, as though they had been glued shut by some invisible force. My head throbbed painfully, a dull ache radiating from the base of my skull down to my shoulders. Where am I? The question echoed in my mind, but no answer came. Slowly, I managed to pry my eyelids apart, only to be greeted by an alien landscape that defied comprehension. Above me stretched a sky unlike any I'd ever seen, a swirling mass of colors that shifted and danced, as if alive. There were no clouds, just endless ribbons of turquoise, violet, and gold weaving together in impossible patterns. Below, the ground shimmered faintly, its surface smooth yet uneven, like liquid frozen mid-motion. Strange plants dotted the horizon, their forms jagged and asymmetrical, pulsing softly with bioluminescent light. I tried to sit up, but my body refused to cooperate. Panic bubbled inside me as I realized I wasn't alone. Around me stood towering figures, their silhouettes casting long shadows against the iridescent terrain. They moved with deliberate grace, their elongated limbs gliding effortlessly through the air. Their skin, or whatever passed for it, was translucent, revealing intricate networks of glowing veins beneath. Eyes, too many eyes, stared at me from faces that seemed more concept than reality, shifting and rearranging themselves as though trying to decide on a single form. One figure stepped forward, taller than the rest, exuding an aura of authority that made my chest tighten. She, I assumed it was female based on her commanding presence, loomed over me, her gaze piercing through layers of fear and confusion. Her voice, when she spoke, reverberated not just in my ears but deep within my bones, resonating like a chord struck on an ancient instrument. "You are awake," she said, her words flowing seamlessly into my consciousness without sound. Telepathy. That must have been how she communicated. "You belong to us now." Her declaration sent a chill coursing through my veins. Belong to them. What did that even mean? Before I could process further, flashes of memory surged back, fragments of what had happened before this moment. A spacecraft hurtling out of control, alarms blaring, fire consuming everything around me. Then nothingness. Had they saved me? Was this gratitude or captivity? As these thoughts raced through my mind, the alien queen tilted her head slightly, studying me with an intensity that left no room for doubt. She knew exactly what I was thinking. And then, almost casually, she added, "I saved your life. Now you will be my mate forever." The weight of those words hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over every rational thought I possessed. Mate. Forever. The implications were staggering, incomprehensible. But before I could respond, or even fully grasp what she meant, the other aliens began closing in, forming a loose circle around us. Their movements were synchronized, fluid, as though choreographed by some unseen conductor. Each one emitted soft hums, vibrations that blended together into a haunting melody, filling the air with an eerie sense of reverence. And there, amidst the surreal beauty and overwhelming strangeness of this world, I understood one thing clearly. My life would never be the same again. Time lost all meaning under the alien queen's watchful gaze. Days, or perhaps mere hours, blurred together as I struggled to comprehend the enormity of her proclamation. Wait. Forever. The words looped endlessly in my mind, each repetition carving deeper grooves of disbelief and dread. Yet, despite the initial shock, something else began to take root within me: curiosity. How could I not be curious about being so profoundly different from anything humanity had ever encountered? Their very existence challenged everything I thought I knew about life, intelligence, and connection. The queen, whose name or title I later learned was Zyra Kyn, seemed to sense this shift in me. She didn't speak often, but when she did, her words carried a gravity that demanded attention. "You resist," she observed one day, her multifaceted eyes narrowing ever so slightly. We were seated, or rather, I was seated while she hovered gracefully above the ground, in a chamber that pulsed faintly with golden light. The walls appeared organic, almost alive, shifting imperceptibly as though breathing in sync with the rhythm of the planet itself. "I don't understand," I admitted, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to steady it. "Why me? Why this?" I gestured vaguely between us, unsure how to articulate the absurdity of her claim. Zyra Kawin tilted her head, a gesture that somehow conveyed both amusement and impatience. "Your kind values survival above all else," she replied, her telepathic voice brushing against my thoughts like silk. "When we found your vessel adrift among the stars, consumed by flames, you were moments from death. Saving you was an act of mercy, but also necessity. Our species is dying, our numbers dwindling. We require new bloodlines to ensure our survival." Her explanation should have horrified me, but instead, it sparked a flicker of understanding. Survival. Of course. From what little I'd gleaned during my time here, their civilization was ancient, far older than humanity's fleeting existence on Earth. If desperation drove them to such measures, who was I to judge? Still, the notion of being chosen, not for love or compatibility, but for biology, left a bitter taste in my mouth. "Do you feel nothing for me?" I asked impulsively, surprising even myself. "Is this purely transactional?" For the first time since our encounter, Zyra Kawin hesitated. Her luminous form shimmered faintly, as though struggling to contain an emotion too complex for human comprehension. "Feelings are difficult to translate across species," she said finally. "But know this, I chose you not because you are convenient, but because you are resilient. You survived where others would have perished. That strength intrigues me." Her admission caught me off guard. Intrigues me. It wasn't affection, not in the way humans understood it, but it was something. A beginning, perhaps. Over the following days, or cycles, as they called them, I began to notice subtle changes in how the Queen interacted with me. She allowed me to explore parts of their city ship, always accompanied by silent attendants who watched me with unblinking eyes. The architecture was breathtaking, a labyrinth of crystalline towers and flowing structures that seemed to grow rather than be built. Streams of liquid light coursed through channels embedded in the floors and ceilings, illuminating pathways that led to chambers filled with strange artifacts and devices. Some areas hummed with activity, while others remained eerily still, as though waiting for something, or someone, to awaken them. During these excursions, Zyra Kyn often joined me, explaining fragments of their culture and history. Their society operated on principles of collective harmony, guided by an intricate web of shared consciousness. Individuality, as I understood it, barely existed. Decisions were made through consensus, emotions filtered through a network that linked every member of their species. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a system that left no room for dissent but promised unparalleled unity. "You are different," Zyra Kyn remarked one evening as we stood atop a platform overlooking a vast expanse of shimmering plains. The horizon glowed faintly, bathed in hues of lavender and amber. "Your thoughts are chaotic, unpredictable. At times, I cannot follow them." "Maybe that's why you find me intriguing," I suggested, half joking. She regarded me silently for a moment, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps," she conceded. "Or perhaps it is because you remind me of what we once were, before order became our sole purpose." Her words lingered in the air, heavy with implication. For all their advancements, their perfection, there was a sadness underlying their existence, a longing for something lost. And in that moment, standing beside this enigmatic being who claimed dominion over my fate, I felt a strange kinship. Neither of us truly belonged, not to this place, not to each other. Yet here we were, bound by forces beyond our control. As weeks turned into months, I began to adapt to my new reality. The initial terror gave way to cautious acceptance, and eventually, a fragile sense of belonging. The Queen's attendants treated me with a mixture of curiosity and deference, their actions tinged with an almost ritualistic precision. Meals consisted of nutrient-rich gels and liquids that tasted surprisingly pleasant, though their texture took some getting used to. Sleep came easily in the low-gravity environment, my body cradled by fields of energy that mimicked the comfort of a bed. But it wasn't just physical adjustments that occupied my days. Zyra Kyn continued to share glimpses of her world, revealing secrets about their technology, their rituals, and most importantly, their biology. It was during one of these lessons that I discovered the true nature of her proposal. "Our species reproduces through symbiosis," she explained, her tone clinical yet tinged with something akin to pride. "A bond forms between two individuals, merging their genetic material to create offspring. This bond is permanent, unbreakable. It ensures loyalty, stability. And you want that with me? I asked, my stomach twisting at the thought. Yes, she replied simply. Your DNA is compatible, adaptable. With guidance, your body can integrate with ours. Together, we will create a new lineage. The idea of merging with an alien species on such a fundamental level was daunting, to say the least. Yet, as Zyra Kyn outlined the process, I couldn't deny the allure of contributing to something greater than myself. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars. Now, I had the chance to leave a legacy among them. Still, doubts lingered. Could I truly abandon my own identity, my humanity, for the sake of coexistence? One night, unable to sleep, I wandered through the dimly lit corridors of the ship city. The air hummed softly, vibrating with the collective energy of its inhabitants. As I walked, I stumbled upon a secluded chamber I hadn't seen before. Inside, holographic projections floated in midair, depicting scenes of war, devastation, and rebirth. Images of battles fought against unknown foes, planets reduced to ash, and finally, the rise of their current civilization. A sudden presence startled me, and I turned to see Zyra Kyn standing in the doorway. Her expression softened as she approached, her glow dimming slightly. These are memories of our past, she said quietly. Reminders of what we sacrificed to achieve peace. Was it worth it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her silence spoke volumes. Finally, she reached out, her hand hovering inches from mine. I do not know, she admitted. But I hope that with you, we might find a balance. A future neither wholly yours nor wholly ours, but something new. In that moment, surrounded by echoes of their history and the weight of her uncertainty, I realized that my decision wasn't just about survival. It was about choice, about forging a path where none existed before. And though fear still lingered, so too did the spark of possibility. The ceremony began without warning, announced only by a sudden shift in the atmosphere. One moment, I was walking through the glowing corridors of the alien city ship, and the next, I was ushered into a vast chamber that seemed to pulse with anticipation. The walls shimmered with cascading lights, their colors shifting in sync with the low hum that filled the space. Hundreds of Zyra Kyn's people gathered around, their translucent forms creating an ethereal sea of luminescence. Their eyes, too many to count, fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Zyra Kyn herself emerged from the crowd, her presence commanding immediate silence. She wore no adornments, yet she radiated authority, her form glowing brighter than ever before. Behind her trailed attendants carrying objects I couldn't identify, elongated rods that emitted soft beams of light, crystalline orbs that floated weightlessly in the air, and garments woven from threads that seemed to shimmer with starlight. My heart pounded as they approached, their movements synchronized like a carefully choreographed dance. "This is the bonding," Zyra Kyn said, her telepathic voice resonating not just in my mind but throughout the entire chamber. A sacred union between two souls, two species, to forge a new destiny. I wanted to protest, to ask for more time, but the weight of their collective gaze silenced me. Instead, I nodded numbly, allowing the attendants to guide me forward. They draped the shimmering garment over my shoulders, its fabric cool against my skin, and placed one of the crystalline orbs in my hands. It vibrated gently, as though alive, its surface reflecting distorted images of my face mingled with fragments of their alien script. The ritual unfolded in stages, each more surreal than the last. First came the chant of unity, a haunting melody sung, or perhaps thought, by everyone present. The sound enveloped me, wrapping around my consciousness like a cocoon, pulling me deeper into their shared awareness. I could feel their emotions, their hopes, their fears, blending together into a tapestry of collective intent. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. Next, Zyra Kyn raised one of the glowing rods, pointing it toward the ceiling. A beam of light shot upward, splitting into countless threads that wove themselves into intricate patterns above us. The design shifted constantly, forming symbols I couldn't decipher but somehow understood on an instinctual level. These were promises, vows written in light and energy, binding us together in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. Then came the moment I had dreaded and anticipated in equal measure, the physical joining. Zyra Kyn extended her hand, her fingers elongating into tendrils of light that wrapped around mine. The contact sent a jolt through my body, electric and warm, as though my very cells were being rewritten. Pain followed, sharp and searing, as the orb in my hands dissolved into a stream of liquid light that flowed into my veins. I gasped, clutching at my chest as the sensation spread, rewriting my DNA strand by strand. Through the haze of pain and wonder, I saw Zyrakoan's face, or what passed for it, soften. Her eyes, once cold and calculating, now held something akin to tenderness. "It is done," she whispered, her voice trembling with an emotion I couldn't name. "We are one." The crowd erupted into a chorus of harmonized tones, their celebration echoing through the chamber like a symphony of stars. I swayed on my feet, dizzy and disoriented, as the attendants steadied me. My vision blurred, and for a moment, I thought I might collapse. But then, through the chaos, I felt it, a connection, faint but undeniable, linking me to Zyrakoan and, by extension, to everyone around me. As the ceremony drew to a close, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about me anymore. Whatever doubts or fears I harbored had been subsumed by the sheer magnitude of what had transpired. I was no longer merely human. I was something else entirely, a bridge between worlds, a vessel for a future neither of us could fully imagine. But even as the crowd dispersed and the lights dimmed, leaving me alone with Zyrakoan in the quiet aftermath, questions lingered in the corners of my mind. What did this bond truly mean? Would I lose myself completely, swallowed by their collective consciousness? Or could I carve out a space within it, a fragment of humanity that would endure? Zyrakoan seemed to sense my unease. She reached out again, her touch gentler this time, and projected a single thought into my mind: trust me. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I did. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between Zyrakoan and me grew stronger, though not without challenges. At first, the connection felt invasive, like a constant whisper in the back of my mind, nudging me toward thoughts and actions that weren't entirely my own. Simple tasks, eating, sleeping, even walking, became exercises in navigating dual impulses, hers and mine. Sometimes, I'd catch myself reaching for objects I didn't need or speaking words I hadn't intended, only to realize they stemmed from her influence. It was disorienting, maddening even, but gradually, I began to adapt. Zyrakoan, for her part, showed remarkable patience. She guided me through meditation exercises designed to strengthen my mental barriers, teaching me how to filter out the noise and assert my individuality within the bond. "Balance is key," she would say, her voice calm and steady. "Too much resistance stifles growth. Too little invites chaos." Her wisdom helped me find equilibrium, though the process was slow and fraught with setbacks. One particularly trying day, I snapped at her during a training session, frustrated by my inability to master the techniques. "Why does it have to be this hard?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Why can't I just be myself?" Her response was unexpected. Rather than reprimanding me, she laughed, a sound so alien yet strangely comforting that it stopped me mid-rant. "Because you are more than yourself now," she replied, her tone lighter than usual. "You carry pieces of me, just as I carry pieces of you. Together, we are something new. Something greater." Her words struck a chord, reminding me of why I had agreed to this in the first place. Growth rarely came without struggle, and perhaps this discomfort was the price of forging a new path. Still, there were moments when the weight of it all threatened to overwhelm me. Late at night, when the city ship grew quiet and the bond pulsed faintly in the darkness, I would lie awake wondering if I'd made the right choice. Was I losing myself, bit by bit, to become someone or something else? These doubts intensified when I began experiencing visions. They came unbidden, vivid and fragmented, showing me glimpses of places I'd never been and faces I didn't recognize. In one vision, I stood on a barren planet, its surface cracked and scorched, while shadowy figures moved in the distance. In another, I soared through a nebula, my body dissolving into streams of light. Each time, I woke drenched in sweat, my heart racing, unsure whether what I'd seen was real or merely a product of my altered mind. Zyrakoan assured me these visions were normal, a side effect of integrating into their collective consciousness. "Your mind is expanding," she explained. "It seeks to understand its new boundaries, to explore possibilities beyond your former limitations." While her explanation offered some reassurance, it also left me uneasy. What if these visions weren't random? What if they were warnings or premonitions? Complicating matters further was the growing tension among HFY's people. Not everyone welcomed my presence, and whispers of dissent rippled through the community. Some viewed me as an outsider, a threat to their purity and traditions. Others saw potential, believing my integration could herald a new era of innovation and adaptation. These opposing factions clashed subtly but persistently, their disagreements manifesting in everything from heated debates to icy stares directed my way. One afternoon, while exploring a lesser-used section of the ship city, I encountered a group of aliens who made no effort to hide their hostility. Their leader, a tall, angular figure with jagged protrusions along his arms, confronted me directly. "You do not belong here," he declared, his telepathic voice sharp and cutting. "Your kind brings chaos, destruction. We should have let you die." His words stung, not because they were untrue but because they echoed fears I harbored myself. Before I could respond, HFY appeared, her presence immediately diffusing the confrontation. "Enough," she commanded, her voice resonating with authority. "She is mine, and she is part of us. Challenge her, and you challenge me." The group dispersed reluctantly, casting lingering glares in my direction. As we walked away, I glanced at HFY, searching for signs of anger or frustration. Instead, I found resolve. "They fear change," she said simply. "But change is inevitable. You are proof of that." Her confidence bolstered me, but it also deepened my sense of responsibility. If I was to play a role in shaping their future, and mine, I needed to prove my worth, not just to them but to myself. Determined to rise to the challenge, I threw myself into learning everything I could about their culture, their technology, and their history. I attended gatherings, participated in discussions, and sought out mentors willing to teach me. Slowly, grudgingly, some of the skeptics began to soften, recognizing my efforts to contribute rather than disrupt. Yet, amidst these strides, a nagging question persisted. What did HFY truly want from me? Beyond the biological imperative of reproduction, what drove her to choose me specifically? During a rare moment of vulnerability, I asked her outright. "Why me?" I pressed, my voice tinged with frustration. "Out of all the humans you could have saved, why did you pick me?" She paused, her luminous form flickering faintly as though grappling with the complexity of the question. "Because you remind me of who I once was," she admitted finally. "Before duty consumed me, before the weight of leadership stripped away my individuality, I was like you, curious, defiant, unwilling to accept limits. I see that spark in you, and it gives me hope." Her confession caught me off guard, stirring emotions I hadn't anticipated. Hope. It was a word I hadn't dared to associate with this situation, yet it resonated deeply. Perhaps this bond wasn't just about survival or obligation. Perhaps it was about rediscovery, for both of us. As the days stretched into months, I found myself embracing this duality, this fusion of human and alien, individual and collective. The visions continued, growing clearer and more frequent, offering tantalizing hints of what lay ahead. And though uncertainty still loomed, I faced it with a newfound determination. Whatever the future held, I would meet it head-on, carrying pieces of two worlds within me. The visions became more vivid, more insistent, until they began to feel less like dreams and more like fragments of a reality I was meant to understand. One night, or what passed for night in this ever-shifting alien environment, I found myself standing on the edge of a vast chasm, its depths swirling with colors that defied description. The air around me crackled with energy, and the ground beneath my feet pulsed faintly, as though alive. In the distance, towering spires rose from the horizon, their surfaces etched with glowing runes that seemed to shift and rearrange themselves as I watched. A figure approached, silhouetted against the kaleidoscopic sky. At first, I thought it was HFY, but as it drew closer, I realized it wasn't her. This being was smaller, more humanoid, yet unmistakably alien. Its skin shimmered like liquid mercury, and its eyes, two deep pools of darkness, seemed to pierce through me, reading every secret I'd ever kept. It spoke without words, its voice resonating directly in my mind. "You are the bridge," it said, its tone neither kind nor cruel, but utterly neutral. "But bridges can collapse under pressure." Before I could respond, The ground beneath me trembled violently, and the chasm widened, swallowing everything in its path. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding as the figure extended a hand toward me. For a moment, I hesitated, unsure whether to trust it. Then, just as the edge crumbled beneath my feet, I reached out, and woke with a start, drenched in sweat. Zyrakewan was beside me, her presence calm but alert. She must have sensed my distress through the bond. "Another vision?" she asked, her telepathic voice gentle. I nodded, still shaken. It felt real. Like it wasn't just a dream. She studied me intently, her multifaceted eyes glowing softly. "Visions are not random," she said after a pause. "They are messages, glimpses of possibilities. You must learn to interpret them." "Possibilities of what?" I pressed, frustration creeping into my voice. "What am I supposed to do? What does it mean to be a bridge?" Her expression softened, though her gaze remained piercing. "You are the link between our species, the catalyst for change. But change is never easy, and not everyone will embrace it. The figure in your vision, it represents uncertainty, the unknown. It warns you that the path ahead will test you, perhaps beyond what you believe you can endure." Her words offered little comfort, but they reinforced something I already knew. This journey would demand everything from me. And yet, despite the fear gnawing at the edges of my resolve, I couldn't shake the feeling that these visions were leading me somewhere important. Somewhere necessary. Days later, during one of my explorations of the ship city, I discovered a hidden chamber I hadn't noticed before. It was tucked away behind a wall of flowing light, accessible only by tracing a specific pattern on the surface, a pattern I somehow instinctively understood. Inside, the room was dimly lit, its walls covered in intricate carvings that glowed faintly in the dark. At the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested an object unlike anything I'd seen before. It was a sphere, roughly the size of my palm, composed of interlocking crystalline shards that refracted light into dazzling patterns. As I approached, it began to hum softly, vibrating in sync with the rhythm of my heartbeat. Tentatively, I reached out and touched it. The moment my fingers made contact, the sphere flared to life, projecting images into the air around me. They depicted scenes of conflict, battles fought across strange landscapes, ships colliding in fiery explosions, beings locked in desperate struggles. But interspersed among these violent images were moments of unity, hands clasped in solidarity, symbols of peace carved into stone, and finally, a vision of two figures, one human, one alien, standing together amidst a field of stars. The message was clear, though no words accompanied it. This sphere held the key to understanding the challenges we faced, not just as individuals, but as species bound together by necessity and choice. When I turned to leave, I realized Zyrakewan had entered the chamber silently, her presence both comforting and unnerving. "You found the nexus," she said, her voice tinged with something akin to awe. "Few are drawn to it, fewer still can activate it." "What is it?" I asked, clutching the sphere tightly, as though afraid it might vanish. "It is a repository of knowledge, a map of potential futures," she explained. "But it is also a test. To wield its power, you must prove yourself worthy." "A test of what?" I demanded, my pulse quickening. "Of balance," she replied. "Of your ability to navigate the complexities of our bond without losing yourself, or betraying us." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Was this another trial I had to endure? Another hurdle to overcome before I could fully embrace my role as the bridge she claimed I was destined to become? As the days passed, the sphere became a focal point of my existence. I carried it with me wherever I went, studying its patterns and deciphering its messages. Each time I touched it, new visions emerged, revealing glimpses of possible outcomes, some hopeful, others dire. Slowly, I began to piece together a narrative, a story of convergence and divergence, of choices that could shape the fate of both our species. But with each revelation came a growing sense of urgency. The dissent among Zyrakewan's people had escalated, fueled by fears that my presence signaled the end of their way of life. Protests erupted in the corridors, voices raised in anger and despair. Some called for my expulsion, while others argued for my integration to proceed at any cost. The tension was palpable, a storm brewing on the horizon. One evening, as I sat alone in the chamber with the sphere, Zyrakowin joined me. Her usual composure was fractured, her glow flickering erratically. "Time is running out," she said, her voice heavy with unspoken weight. "The factions are drawing lines, and soon, they will demand a decision. A choice." "What kind of choice?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. She hesitated, then placed a hand on mine. "Whether to sever the bond, or complete it." The implications hit me like a physical blow. Severing the bond would mean undoing everything we had built, returning me to my former self, but at what cost? Would I survive the process? And if I did, where would I go? Completing the bond, on the other hand, would solidify my place among them, irrevocably altering who I was. There would be no turning back. "I don't know if I'm ready," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "You may never feel ready," she replied, her tone compassionate but firm. "But readiness is not the same as willingness. Are you willing to take the next step, no matter how uncertain the outcome?" Her question lingered in the air, unanswered. Outside, the city ship hummed with restless energy, its inhabitants poised on the brink of change. Whatever decision I made, it would ripple outward, shaping destinies far beyond my own. And as I gazed into the swirling depths of the sphere, I realized the answer wasn't something I could find in visions or prophecies. It had to come from within. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but it was also filled with possibility. I had been given a rare gift, the chance to redefine what it meant to belong, to create something entirely new. Whether I succeeded or failed, one thing was certain. I would face the future head-on, carrying the hopes and fears of two worlds in my hands.